governments from the late 1960s have instituted actions to reform the public service for improved pay, service delivery, and conditions of service of public service employees in Ghana. The policy challenges were to provide more sustainable mechanisms to reform the public service. This culminated in the formation of a number of committees to oversee this, but the results were ad hoc and short-lived. The most recent initiative was the Ghana Universal Salary Structure, the GUSS, which was implemented in 1997 with the aim of resolving the deepening inequities and disparities in pay within and across the public services. Under the GUSS, a nationwide job evaluation exercise was undertaken, and new job grading and salary structures were developed. It was expected that all public sector workers would be placed on the GUSS and that public sector pay levels would be enhanced. But that could not be achieved for various reasons. Consequently, disparities in pay and grading continued to prevail in the public sector, which led to the creation of about 110 salary structures within the public service. In light of this, the Fairwages and Salaries Commission was established by an Act of Parliament, Act 737, in 2007 to develop and advise government on matters relating to salaries, wages, grading, classification, job analysis and evaluation, performance management and indicators. It was also to undertake negotiations where compensation is financed from public funds and advise government on allowances and benefits in the public service with the ultimate objective of consolidating them.
The Commission exists to ensure that best practices in job grading, evaluation, performance management and research are employed in pay administration, and also to establish a certain link between public service pay and productivity.
Any pay admin system must be based on job evaluation. The essence of the job evaluation is to establish equity and fairness. And what the job evaluation does is that it applies the same criteria in evaluating all the public sector jobs and reducing them to a common denominator in order to compare them and grade them. So all over the world, any pay system is hinged on a job evaluation process.
As part of its values, the Fairwages and Salaries Commission believes in the unique role and contribution of its staff. It also encourages participation through collaboration, support, and communication to achieve a common goal.
The Fairwages and Salaries Commission is well resourced in terms of human resources, and that all those who work here are highly motivated to achieve results. You know, the work of the Commission is very Herculean, very tasky, and very, very challenging. However, it's very experiential. We work with people who are highly dedicated. I would say we derive our strength from the dedication of our staff and people who are ready to serve Mother Ghana. The consequences of the error of any staff here will affect the whole nation. So we are serious in ensuring that staff do exactly what they are supposed to do.
We work on everything that you need to know about salaries. We try to gather information from institutions. Sometimes we go on negotiation meetings and all to make sure that the final decision we are taking on an institution is the right thing.
The technical analysis has to look at the technicalities that exist in the pay structures that we have tried to bring together under the single spine salary structure. So for different institutions, there are different pay salary structures, and bringing them together involves a lot of technical issues. So when you look at it, the single spine salary structure is capturing all these structures together. And so we have to look at the relativities that exist within the various institutions and bring them together under the single structure.
One of the mandates of the Fairwages and Salaries Commission is to design and implement performance management, monitoring and evaluation in the whole of the public service. It's about managing according to objectives That is to say, as an organization, this is our target, this is what we want to achieve, and then people actually are managed towards the achievement of those goals and objectives.
The biggest task of the Commission was to implement the new public service pay policy of the government, known as the Single Spine Pay Policy, to ensure fairness, equity and transparency in the public service pay administration, as well as enhance performance and productivity.
It starts with what we call job analysis before you do the job evaluation. Job analysis has to do with picking data on the job. And therefore, the job analysis is based on 4 main factors. That has to do with knowledge and skill. It also has to do with responsibility, working environment, and then effort in doing the work. We have subdivided them into 13 sub-factors. Each one has weightings attached to them. So when you pick the data, then you can able to use the weighting to arrive at figures. For each of the institutions, we classify them into service classification. Now the service classification decided to put weightings upon the 13 factors. That added up to 100%. So then you multiply it with the weightings to get a total figure. The total scores determine your placement on the grade structure.
In determining the categorization of allowances, the Commission considered 4 main factors. The Category 1 allowances took into consideration some 13 factors. These 13 factors included the qualification, the responsibilities, the work environment, the hazards of the job, the mental effort, the physical effort, and all that. Now, because all these things have been used in doing the evaluation of the job, if anybody or any group is taking an allowance that has to do with these job factors, it means that those allowances have already been taken into consideration in evaluating your job. Then we have the Category 2 allowances. And these Category 2 allowances are allowances that normally happens as and when. I mean, they are not part of the regular things that you do. Maybe you have to do overtime, and in doing overtime, you have to be paid for the overtime. You have to act for somebody, so you need to be paid acting allowance. These allowances happen as and when one undertakes that assignment. And so those ones are considered as Categories 2 allowances. Then we have Categories 3 allowances that are staff welfare related. Then Category 4 allowances are allowances that are meant for certain categories of employees within the public sector, normally from director and above. And because they are meant for certain level of public servants, the government white paper stated that these allowances will have to be monetized, and that the monetization should not be part of the first 3 years of implementation.
Currently, we have over 110 salary structures in the public service on controller and accountant general payroll alone. Apart from that, there are other salary structures in the public service. So the first phase of the implementation is to bring all these public service employees on the single span salary structure. We are going to do what is called the policing the payroll. One of the objectives of the pay policy is to ensure management of the public sector payroll. In the migration process, we have to eliminate ghost names. We have to eliminate employees who have been employed without the due process, or who don't have ID numbers, those who have retired and all that. We clean all these things during the first phase of implementation. We are going to see that those allowances that we have consolidated during the first phase are not going to reappear in any form. And therefore, we have developed a database here which we are going to use in policing the payroll in collaboration with the audit service. We have done some market surveys, and the results from the market surveys, we are going to use that one to develop guidelines for the determination of market premium for those who deserve it. And the market premium is going to be paid to employees that have critical skill that we need to retain them in the public service.
When anybody has a grievance, a complaint, or dissatisfaction with job grading, job evaluation, and salary placement, then they will have to channel their grievance to the grievance review committee, which is made up of experts in this area: job evaluation, job grading, salary placement. Now these experts, based on the information that we will give to them, will now resolve the problem and then give their verdicts. If somebody is not happy with the verdict that the grievance review committee gives, then they would have to appeal to the Board of Governors of the Fairwages and Salaries Commission. If you are not happy with that decision from the Board of Governors, then you now appeal to the Labour Commission. At the Labour Commission, mostly the decision will be final on matters of fact. But if there are issues of law or legality, then the person that is not happy, then they will appeal to the law courts when there is a dispute.
However, there have been a lot of misconception and misunderstanding about it, including the functions of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. To help address these concerns, the Commission took advantage of the national and regional policy fairs organized by the Ministry of Information to further educate stakeholders and the public on the single spine pay policy and the mandate of the Commission.
I believe that if people understood the policy very well, some of the strikes that we are experiencing wouldn't have happened. If people understood that the policy in itself is supposed to ensure that there's rationalization, rationalizes salaries in the public service, and ensure that people are paid for the worth of their job, people will not be going on the sort of demonstration that we are going through. It is true that generally the public service pay is low, but the public service pay is low not necessarily because the government cannot pay. The public service pay is low because most often the structures in the public service are weak. And then again, we also have a situation where comparatively, I think the public sector workforce is large. We need to recognize that there are certain efforts that have gone into increasing the public sector wage bill. And that has to do with the numbers as well. So we all need to understand that in doing rationalization, some may gain far more than the others. We can all not gain the same quantum of increase. If we all gain the same quantum of increase, then it means that it's not rationalization.
Part of the problem is the way the single spine itself was also sold. It was sold as if a one-stroke solution could solve the two problems of income disparity and low levels. Because people were promised that after the restructuring, they will be better off. People virtually have been looking for a significant increase in pay with the implementation of the single spine.
The road is rough, but we need a lot of patience because it's a very technical thing and you need a lot of technical mind to understand what the principles are. And therefore, if we rush into it, at the end of it all, nobody will gain. So we believe that if we take our time and implement the single spine the way it should be implemented, nobody will be a loser. The problem has been education. Many people do not even understand the concept. Despite the fact that among even my own teachers, I've had series of meetings here and there trying to tell them what the single spine is all about. But like I said, because of expectations, some of them don't see anything good about it.
We always expected that a huge reforms like this one will not go without any agitation at all. When workers are on the streets, that is where the media get interested. It's not when it is going well. And I tell you, many of the negotiations between workers and fair wages went very well. The truth of the matter is that largely the single spine the process has been quite successful. There have been delays, there have been challenges, but we expected those. What we needed to do was to make sure that when the challenges appear, we will deal with them. And so far, so good.
It continues to undertake a number of retreats quarterly and workshops for its staff to give them first-hand and detailed knowledge of the new pay policy and the Commission's work.
In the Commission's effort to manage stress, it organizes staff retreats every quarter to foster unity among staff and also ensure the staff well-being and work-life balance.
The Fair Wages and Salaries Commission has also carried out a number of negotiations and stakeholders fora in this sense. It also collaborated with the National Labour Commission to organize a seminar on managing employment relations in the public sector to open up avenues for deeper understanding of the roles of all stakeholders.
The Labour Commission is an adjudicating body when it comes to labor issues. So once there is a dispute in relation to worker management relations, then the commission is closed under the law to settle that dispute. It makes provision for a grievance review committee. I think there's a lot of ignorance about the provisions in our laws, coming particularly from the elite class of this country. It's not all of them who understand the provisions in our labor laws. So they take the certain actions which are not in conformity with the provisions in the law. Sometimes they know the law and they deliberately take the law into their own hands and do what is expected of them. So one of the things we have started so that we can curb this thing or nip it in the bud is to have educational programs for unions, particularly those of them in the public sector. And then subsequently, the two commissions are going to come together and see how we can go further down to workers in the public sector and educate them on the two laws, that's the labor laws and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission law.
As at May 2012, the Commission had migrated 95 institutions onto the spine, with the total number of employees being 471,178, representing 99.52%.
Today, the Commission has developed its mission, its vision. We have a 5-year strategic plan, so things are going to be different. If we are saying that as a Commission, we are going to be a reference point, world-class reference point in pay administration as our vision, that means that we cannot, as a Commission, do job as usual. We need to have high caliber of people within the Commission, people who are proactive, people who are result-oriented, people who really understand the nature of the job that we are doing. So for us, positioning our employees for them to be responsive to the needs of our stakeholders will be very critical. And we'll place a lot of emphasis on capacity building of our employees because the public sector drives the private sector. And therefore, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission will have to make sure that we do our things very well.
One thing that I want to commend the Fair Wages Commission is the approach. Did everything to consult at every stage of this process. That approach has largely explained the success we have achieved.
It is a process. It is not a one-time type of thing. We have about 5 years to implement the single spine. And until the end of the 5 years, nobody will be able to know exactly where we are heading towards to. So I believe that it has been fair since we started. We haven't seen any huge upheavals, apart from sometimes people's inability to understand the concept.
In my view, we've done very well, extremely well, as far as the implementation of the single spine is concerned. We engage people. Anytime there was a problem, we met them, engage them, put their cars across, and then as soon as you explain the whys and the why nots, they do understand it. So for me, so far, very good, not even so.
This landmark achievement could not have been possible without the support of key stakeholders.
I'm confident in the Fair Wages Commission. I'm confident in the process that they have adopted. And I'm confident in the understanding the unions have showed over the period. And I have no doubt in my mind that we will place all private sector workers on the spine, and that we'll go through the process, and that these reforms are going to deal with the issues of low pay in the public service eventually and ultimately.
The Commission remains grateful to its donor partners and pray for their continued support.
In terms of support to the consultancies, job evaluation and revaluation, standardization of services and allowances, establishing a basic and market premium, developing a strategic plan for the Fair Wages Commission. developing a communication strategy for the Fairwages Commission, sponsoring steady tours to other countries to be able to learn best practices, to be able to enrich our own that is going on. Actually was an exercise that had financial implications, and the support to the Fairwages Commission as a result of our agreement with the World Bank amounted to $1,146,500 for consultancies alone. But when it comes to goods and services, that also amounted to $410,000.
The World Bank has been of great assistance to us, and I believe that with this, other donors will definitely be happy that the World Bank is involved. They will also come on board for the smooth implementation of this wonderful program.
Government is also putting in place strategies to manage the wage bill and source funds to sustain the project to prevent any negative repercussion on the economy as well as government's budget or expenditure.
As a country, we could have taken any other option of, for instance, reducing our public sector workforce and then saying we are paying them well. At the end of the day, if assuming you reduce it to about 200,000 or 250,000 as other West African countries are having, or even far smaller, you'll have huge numbers of people who will be out there unemployed. And what will you do as a country? It means that you'll be confronted with all these huge numbers being unemployed. And now we as a country have decided that, look, we can increase our public sector workforce, and therefore we've done that. Socially, it is in our interest. So there are things that we have taken as a country, and I think that we need to recognize that there are certain efforts that have gone into increasing the public sector wage bill. And that has to do with the numbers as well.
We should also be mindful of the fact that if we want to satisfy just Russian, to satisfy the agitations of the demands without taking into consideration our own business and economy, then we'll run this country into problems. You have to also look at your pocket. And this is what Ghanaians need to do as far as this particular concept is concerned.
One issue concerning this policy is about sustainability of the policy. If you look at the salaries that we are paying to public service workers now, one questions whether the policy is sustainable. We are going to develop productivity indicators to see that the pay that we are paying public servants is linked to productivity. We will be working with the Ghana Statistical Service to be able to determine public servants' contribution to the overall GDP. Then we'll be able to ensure the sustainability of the policy.
The Fairwages and Salaries Commission aims to strategically position itself to gain credibility and be responsive to its stakeholders.
The Commission would want to say a big thank you to all our stakeholders. They understood our position, that this was a new commission that is going through a lot of challenges, even setting up itself. You know that we are even in a temporary environment, but they've still been with us. They've shared their experiences with us. They've discussed issues with us. So we want to thank them very much for all their support. And we believe that they will continue to support us. And together we will develop this world-class pay administration that Ghana will also be a place that people will travel and come and see what we are doing. That is our aim.
The institution hopes to become a world-class reference center in pay administration, promoting fairness, equity and transparency in public services compensation and benefits. This shall be achieved by working through highly motivated, dedicated and innovative staff, adopting appropriate technological solutions and also collaborating effectively with stakeholders through constructive dialogue and negotiations that promote and maintain industrial harmony. Fairwages and Salaries Commission, fairness, equity, transparency, and making public sector workers better off is our home.